Hello! In this video, we're going to be discussing NumPy and how to make arrays in Python. As an engineer, you will often need to work with vectors, matrices, and higher order arrays to organize and analyze data. Python's lists act like arrays. However, the native functionality of lists make them process rather slowly. So we're going to use a tool called NumPy, which is able to do computations with arrays much more quickly. If you're using Spider and have an Anaconda installation, NumPy should already be installed in your computer. We can import NumPy by saying import NumPy, and we usually import it as np. To make an array, we simply call it by doing np.array and inserting a number. Let's go ahead and print that and run this so we can see what an array looks like. Alright, so this is a zero-dimensional array. It only has one element in it. And when I printed it, I printed just the number 42 because an array of one element is essentially an integer or a float value. Let's make some more arrays. So I'm going to call this next one v1. And if we want to make an array that is one-dimensional, we can put a list in as the elements. So let's make an array that is 1, 2, 3, 4. So this will be a one-dimensional array with 4 elements. And we will print v1. Okay, so it prints out similar to a list, but notice that the values are not separated by a comma like a list would be. This is written more like you would write a matrix or a vector if you were writing it by hand. And notice the size here in the top right in your variable explorer says it is 4 comma blank, meaning it is a one-dimensional array of length 4. The comma blank means that there is not another dimension. Okay, let's look at how to make a two-dimensional array. And the way to do that is by calling array, and then we're going to have a list of lists. So I'm going to have 2 opening square brackets here, and then I will put my first vector in one, and I will put my second vector in another list here. And then those are together in a list. So let's look at this. Oh, sorry, let's print v2. Okay, so here it printed out sort of like you would expect a matrix to, with the 2 arrays being on top of each other. So this is a two-dimensional array, and it is a 2 by 3. And so NumPy lists so you can think of this as the vertical dimension first, and then the horizontal dimension. So I have 2 arrays of length 3 in this whole two-dimensional array. Now in NumPy you can make an array of any number of dimensions. We'll just look at one more. We'll look at a 3-dimensional array because after that the uses get a little bit more limited. And you may notice a pattern forming here. When we want to make a 3-dimensional array, we have 3 square brackets we need to open with. So the one-dimensional array was 1, two-dimensional array was 2, three-dimensional array would be 3. And so I'll have 2 arrays here. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then let's go 6, 5, 4. 3, 2, 1. And I have messed something up here somewhere. I need one more open here. And then one more close here. All right. So as your arrays get larger and larger, this can get tricky. And you can format these in your code however, in whatever way you think makes them easiest to read. And I spelled array wrong. Okay, so this is all one big array here. And you'll notice in my variable explorer, this is a 3-dimensional array, 2 by 2 by 3. So if you come across 3-dimensional arrays, that's how you make them. Now, similar to lists in Python, these arrays all have methods that we can perform on them. So we can do things like check the number of dimensions in the array. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's print v2.ndim. So ndim will print out the dimension of the array. And right there we can see that it printed 2. We can also print out individual elements of the array by calling them. So let's print something like this. That the second element of the first row is, so we're going to call the second element of the first row of our 2-dimensional array v2, and that is 0, 1. So this is being called where the 0 is the row number, and then the 1 is the element number. So if we print that, the second element of the first row is 2. If we look at our array, there we go, that's the second element of the first row. Let's do another example. Let's do the third element. If we're looking at a 3-dimensional array, the third element of the second array of the first array is 0, 1, 2. So here we are calling in order the first array. So that would be this row here. Inside of that, we are calling the second array. So that narrows it down to this array here. And we're calling the third element of that array. So if we have done this correctly, we should print 6. Third element of the second array of the first array is 6. Perfect. So that's a way that you can call individual elements out of an array when you need them. Another thing that can be helpful if you're not sure what the arrays look like, if you're like importing data, is the shape function. And so we can call shape, and it will print out the dimensions of the array. So v2.shape printed 2, 3, which tells me that there are 2 arrays, each with 3 elements. So that is an introduction to NumPy and arrays in NumPy. For more on what NumPy can do, I encourage you to read the documentation or check out some online tutorials.